I know that they talked about wanting to kill the deer in like a certain area. They had like their deer, they were gonna like kill them to like regulate the population.
They're trying to like reduce the deer population at the nature preserve, and probably had some sort of like environmental like justification that I'm not aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're overpopulated.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
Yeah, I did know that in this area.
Severe deer overpopulation in the nature preserve, and there was a proposal submitted to cull or kill some of the deer to try and mitigate this problem.
Did you know that there was a push on campus to reduce the deer overpopulation because they are overpopulated?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what deer culling is? Because that's the farthest the university got with deer population control is deer culling. Do you know what that term means?
No.
Okay.
The deer are basically damaging the forest because there are no predators that can actually stabilize the population of deer, so they're taking over the forest, and there are too many of them, so they're destroying it. Is that what it is?
Do you live in the Binghamton area?
I do.
Okay. Were you aware that there was an overpopulation of deer on Binghamton's campus?
No.
Deer culling is when some type of like organization of like skilled professionals come into an area and kill the deer and remove them so there's a stable population.
My understanding is that the nature preserve over there was being overrun, and a lot of the plants and species of plants there were being eaten out by the overpopulation of deer. And a decision was made by the group that runs the nature preserve to quote-unquote cull the herd. And they were going to hire an outfit, I think, called White Buffalo, to take out a certain percentage of the deer by shooting them.
So there's obviously an overpopulation problem in the nature preserve of deer, and there are individuals and I guess departments who want to control the population by having a private company, I think it's White Buffalo, right, come in and kill them. But there are a lot of groups who are against it, a lot of animal rights groups, and there's a lot of politics surrounding it. And the culling was not enacted in the past winter because there wasn't an environmental impact statement made for it. But it hasn't been thrown out, but it's still trying to be done.
Well, I don't know if I wouldn't say I noticed anything necessarily myself, but I did go into the nature preserve as part of my ecosystems class, and the TA pointed out that all of the suckers were from one specific kind of tree, because that tree produced suckers instead of the other types of trees producing saplings, because those get eaten by the deer.
I actually didn't know about it until I went to a Mountain View meeting and they talked about it.
So, like, living in Mountain View, you didn't even see, like, a whole bunch of deer?
I saw a few deer, but then, like, I noticed after I learned about, like, the deer culling, I saw more deer. Like, I was more aware of the deer after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can even just by looking at, like, the vegetation, the height of the plants that are growing there. You can walk anywhere in the preserve and see, like, 10 deer at a time. I mean, I've been surrounded by, like, 14 deer, and they're so habituated that they'll just stand around you, but it's clear that they'll eat whatever they can at this point because there's not a lot of like preferred growth when it comes to their diet. They're just eating everything, and it affects the whole ecosystem.
I don't know, it's kind of a tough situation because they're already here, but like you don't want them to starve.
Right. You're like okay with the idea of culling?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what the alternatives are, other than just like mass killing them or something and not doing anything with the meat that they have, but that seems like the most I mean, I don't like killing animals ever, but it's better than having them like live in this situation.
Right.
I'm pro deer culling. I think that it makes the most sense environmentally, and I think that people who are against it tend to be reacting emotionally rather than intellectually, because deer are more anthropomorphic than trees are, for example, so people find them cuter, and the idea of killing a deer is really upsetting. And I'm not denying that it's not upsetting. Of course, killing a deer is upsetting, but I think it's better for the overall good of the ecosystem at large instead of preserving one species and having that take precedence over the other species that are present.
I think, like, I know that they talk about giving like the meat to a soup kitchen, so I think as long as they do something proactive with like the meat and stuff, that's okay. But if they're just gonna like kill them and like throw them away, I'd be like no. But
Yeah.
if they're gonna help other people out with it, then I think that's okay.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, because starving is so cruel. So, I mean, that would be a more humane way of solving the issue. And so, yeah, I concur with that.
Okay. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't really see anything wrong with that.
My opinion, I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in it? Okay.
I don't.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit?
If they're gonna, if there's an overpopulation of deer, then they ought to open it up so that everybody can hunt there, not just the choice few like they wanted to do. But other than that, this whole area, even around the mall, is all populated with deer. They're in people's yards. They're walking on the roads. They're all over the place.
What do you think about the safety of the students if we open it up to everybody to hunt? Like, how do you think that would work?
Well, you do it in an off season.
That's what I was thinking.
You don't do it while students are in, or you do it so that the students ain't on the places that the hunters would go within 100 feet or 100 yards, something like that.
Yeah, I certainly, while I do believe in animal rights and whatnot, I think the priority is the ecosystem as a whole and whole systems. And it's not the deer's fault. It's not their fault that they're overpopulated. It's really the fault of human impact and development that have forced these animals into these small home ranges. And when they have no natural predators, which have also been forced out by humans, they're going to breed and overpopulate naturally. So I think that the priority is the entire ecosystem, which includes all the other plants and animals in it, and really have to do what's best for the whole system, which is to control the population. And even though and it'll help things out for a time, but it's going to be something that needs to be maintained regularly every however many years.
I think if you have an area that's that overpopulated, you're going to have nothing but problems anyway if you let it go. So I think it's a necessity to thin that herd. You know what I mean? Disease is going to run rampant, which can carry on to other herds outside of BU. You know what I mean? So you're going to hurt the whole deer population, not just what they're on the grounds. You know what I mean? So I think it's necessary. What to do thereafter, I have obviously opinions on also, but there are many different roads that you could take.
I think I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay.
I mean, I definitely think that hunting deer is great. You need to feed your family. Some people need to feed their family with that.
Right.
But just to kill them, I couldn't see why that. I could see why that would be like a big deal. I wouldn't support that so much.
I think it needs to be done. There's a lot of things that can result from overpopulation, not the least of which you have a bad winter, you're going to have starvation at a very high level. The population will eat virtually, they have thousands of items in their diets, and they will eat virtually everything around, in and around the preserve. And as Gwen mentioned, disease becomes a problem. If you want to look at it from a perspective of sterilization, you should look at the work that was done by the feds down in Antietam and how much it costs to sterilize a deer, a la in Ithaca, up in Cayuga Heights where the professors live. It's thousands of dollars a deer, and it's 2 to 3 years effectiveness. And quite frankly, I'm not sure where those funds would be coming from.
I feel every time that I hear things like that, it just makes me feel very sad because, you know, I feel like sometimes the reason that there's an overpopulation of animals is because we've taken like the predators away from the natural habitat, and they basically overpopulate because there's nothing that will kill them or eat them. But that is I feel like because we've taken that, it is not, maybe we shouldn't do that because it is basically like our fault, you know? So I feel like, what about worldwide population? Like, you know, there's too many people in the world. So are you gonna like go around and put people in like a cage and start shooting them just because there's too many people? Like, that's illegal. So why should we do that to other species? You know, that's just my point of view. I agree with it. Like, it's a good thing that it's going on, but there's also like, you know, if this school wasn't here and if this city wasn't here, maybe it wouldn't, you know, be happening right now. So I mean, it's that's just my opinion. But I agree, it should be done.
Well, my personal opinion, I think it should be archers doing it. First of all, there's less likely of there to be a stray arrow instead of a bullet, you know what I mean? You're in close-knit quarters, and it's quieter, you know what I mean? And it'll go through a lot better under the radar, so to speak, than snipers out there with rifles.